You already know the story. Over the last 5 years, China has been one of the most punished stock markets on earth. Not a wobble, a long grinding fall. The main China index, the one most funds simply copy, dropped more than a quarter of its value over that stretch. 27% gone. So here's a reasonable assumption. If I tell you there's a China fund you can buy from India that lived through those exact same 5 years, you'd guess it went down with the ship. Same country, same crisis, same bloodbath. It did not. Over that stretch, it lost under 5%. A quarter of the market's money gone. Almost none of this funds. Same headlines, opposite outcome. That gap between the market everyone fears and this one quiet fund is the whole point of this video. So let's open it up. What it owns, why, who it's for, and who runs it. First, one distinction that changes how you read everything. There are two kinds of funds. An index fund simply copies the market. It owns what the index owns, and no person is choosing. An active fund has a manager, making deliberate choices about what to own and what to avoid. This is an active fund. There's even a number for how far it strays from the market it's measured against. It's called active money, and here it's about 69%. Roughly, 2/3 of this portfolio looks nothing like its benchmark. So every unusual position in it is a decision, not an accident. The fund's real product is in China. It's a specific view on how to invest in it. Here's the view in one picture. Imagine a genuinely good house. Solid foundation, good locality, nothing wrong with it. Now, bad news hits the neighborhood. Everyone panics and for sale boards go up on every gate. Prices crash. The house didn't get worse, the mood did. The value investor's whole game is to walk in at that exact moment and buy the good house at the scared price. Because the gap between what it's worth and what you pay is your cushion if you're wrong. Professionals call that cushion the margin of safety. That is exactly how this fund's manager describes his job. Find good businesses run by competent, honest people and buy them only when they're out of favor and cheap. And by that logic, the most hated market in the world isn't a place to avoid. It's the biggest clearance rack on the planet. That's the bet. Not China will boom. Rather, good Chinese companies have been thrown out with the bad ones. And this fund buys the good ones at panic prices and waits. You don't have to take the thesis on trust. The holdings show it plainly in three ways. One, it's deliberately underweight the crowd. The most exciting corner of China is technology, and the index keeps about 14% there. This funds hold 1.5%. It has almost entirely walked away from the hottest part of the market. It's also far lighter on the giants. Only about half the fund sits in mega caps worth over $10 billion versus roughly 85% for the index. Where the market crowds into a handful of famous names, this fund drifts down to smaller, cheaper, less watched companies. 2. It's overweight exactly what people are fleeing. Its single biggest sector bet against the market is real estate, more than 4 times the index's weight, right in the middle of China's property crisis. It's also heavy on the boring defensive things people ignore in a downturn, like everyday consumer staples at nearly 3 times the index weight. This is the clearance rack in action. The fund shops precisely where the fear is thickest. 3. Its biggest positions carry a twist. The top holding is Tencent, the Chinese internet giant, at about 10%. But sitting right beside it is a Dutch-listed company called Prosus at 5%. And Prosus's main asset is itself a huge stake in Tencent, one that has often traded at a discount to what that stake is actually worth. So, the fund quietly buys the same company twice, once directly and once through a cheaper backdoor. Around them sit Alibaba, NetEase, a major Chinese bank, an aircraft leasing business, a dairy company, a gold miner. It's a shopping list assembled by value, not by price. Loss under 5% while the market lost 20% figure needs context because on its own it's misleading. Read the fund properly and 3 things sit next to it. First, the same style that protects you on the way down holds you back on the way up. In 2020, the China market shot up nearly 31%. This fund fell almost 2%. It sat out one of the great rallies because, to a value investor, everything looked too expensive. And that isn't ancient history. Over the last 3 years, this fund returned about 7% while the market returned over 26%. On the standard scorecards professionals use, the Sharpe ratio and alpha those 3 years look poor, not good. In rupee terms, in 2022, the China index fell about 21%, while this fund fell under 3%. On 1 lakh, an Indian copier lost roughly 21,000 rupees. This fund's holder lost under 3,000 rupees. The defensiveness is real, and so is its price. Long, frustrating stretches of watching a rising market leave you behind. Second, strip away the cleverness, and this is still a single country emerging market. Fidelity rates it 6 on its own risk scale with yearly swings above 20%. It carries the weight of China risk, the economy, the politics, the currency. And the contrarian real estate bet cuts both ways. If China's property pain turns out to be permanent and structural rather than passing and cyclical, cheap can stay cheap for a very long time. A margin of safety is protection, not a problem. Third, you pay for the active management. The ongoing charge is 1.90% a year. On every 1 lakh rupee invested, that's 1900 rupees leaving your pocket annually, far more than a plain index tracker. The whole deal is that the manager's judgment eventually beats the cheap index by enough to be worth that fee. Over the long life of the fund, it has, since 2015, the fund is about 15% while its index is up 9%. Over the last 3 years, it hasn't. Both facts are true at once. So, who is a fund like this actually suitable for? This isn't a recommendation, it's a way to judge fit. It's worth considering only if a few things are true together. You already have a solid, diversified core doing the main work in your portfolio, and this would be a small satellite on top, not the foundation. You want China exposure, but a defensive, capital preserving version of it rather than the full index roller coaster. You have a long horizon, ideally 7 years or more, because a value approach needs full cycles to be proven right, and the manager himself frames China's troubles as cyclical, not permanent. And most importantly, you can watch this fund lag a rising market for years and not sell. It's the wrong fund if the opposite is true. If it would be a large share of your money, if you might need that money within a few years, if trailing the index as a bull run would keep you up at night, or if you just want the cheapest possible slice of China, in which case buy the index and save the fee. A single country, high fee, contrarian fund is a supporting player, never the lead. The useful question is never, is this a good fund? It's, is this the right fund for the specific job I want it to do? That leaves the last check. And for an active fund, it's the one that matters. The strategy is only as reliable as the firm and the people running it. So do the diligence. The firm is Fidelity International, and note, that's the international arm, a separate company from the American Fidelity most people know. It manages over $1 trillion globally as of end 2025. That scale isn't just for show. Buying obscure, out-of-favor Chinese companies safely takes a large, in-house research team on the ground, not one person with a hunt. The lead manager is Nitin Bajaj, who has spent more than 2 decades at Fidelity and also run its well-known Fidelity Asian Values Trust. His whole career is one consistent idea, repeated in interview after interview. Good businesses, honest managers, bought with a margin of safety, ignoring the mood of the moment. He's joined by co-manager Alice Lee. The credential that counts is glamour. It's that this is the same discipline applied through boom and bust for years, not a style invented for today's market. One last thing, and it's about the fund's wrapper, not its holdings. This is a UCITS fund, a European regulated fund type, in this case a Luxembourg SICAV. That structure is the reason an investor in India can buy it in the first place, and it comes with built-in rules. An independent custodian holds the assets, and there are limits on how much can sit in any single stock. UCITS doesn't tell you a fund is good, it only tells you the rulebook it has to follow. So, notice the order we just used because it works for any fund. What does it own and what's the bet? Here, good Chinese companies bought cheap when everyone's scared, not the hot names everyone's chasing. What's the risk profile? Defensive in crashes, painfully patient in rallies, expensive to hold, and still full-blooded China risk underneath. Who is it for? A small, long-term, contrarian satellite for a patient investor. And who runs it? A large, credible firm and a manager who's followed the same value discipline for 20 plus years. And that's the real payoff of doing this properly. That opening number, a market down 27%, a fund down 5%, told you almost nothing on its own. But once you can see the bet, the risk, the fit, and the people behind it, you're not guessing anymore. You're making an informed decision. That's the whole point. And it's a skill you can use on any fund you look at next. That's this episode of Know Your Fund, where we open up the funds you can actually buy one at a time and show you how to read them yourself. If it was useful, like the video and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next fund.